hey, it's good to see you here. Or, well, I can't actually see you, but you know what I mean. There's always this irony, isn't there? Talking about social media while using social media. But here we are, and I'm not trying to be preachy or holier than thou about it. Actually, I can't even claim I'm not being narcissistic right now, because isn't there some vanity in wanting to validate my own thoughts out loud? Maybe, probably, that could be a whole other conversation. These are just things I find myself thinking about. Things that bother me, things that make sense to me when I'm alone, off the grid, just existing. So, let me be honest with you from the start. I didn't find this video. This video found me, and maybe it found you too. There's something strange about living in a world where everyone is performing, where every moment needs an audience, where silence feels like disappearing. But here's what I've been thinking about lately. What about the people who don't feel that pull? The ones who can sit in a coffee shop without taking a photo of their cup, who can watch a sunset and just watch it. No story, no caption, just them in the sky. I've been trying to understand this, not because I think it makes someone better, but because I think it makes someone different. And different is worth exploring. So if you're someone who's ever felt out of place in this world of constant sharing, if you've ever wondered why you don't feel that need to be seen, this might make sense to you. Or maybe it won't, and that's okay too. Let's think about this together. There's a type of person that the world doesn't talk about much, not because they're rare, but because they're quiet. They move through life like water. They don't announce themselves. They don't need to be the center of anything. And I think that bothers people sometimes, because when someone doesn't seek attention, we don't know what to do with them. We can't categorize them. We can't predict them. They're not hiding. They're not shy necessarily. They're just content in their own company. I remember watching someone at a park once. They were sitting alone on a bench. No phone, no book, just sitting. And I remember thinking, when was the last time I did that? When was the last time any of us just existed without needing to document it? These people, the ones who don't need attention, they figured something out that the rest of us are still chasing. They've learned that being seen and being whole are not the same thing. And honestly, that's both beautiful and a little bit sad. Because it means they're living in a world that constantly asks them to be louder, to be more visible, to prove they exist. And they just don't. So what's actually happening here? Why do some people feel this way while others can't go a day without posting? I think it comes down to something simple but profound. It's about where you find your sense of self. Psychologists talk about this idea of the persona, the mask we wear for the world, the version of ourselves we present to others. And for a lot of people, that persona becomes everything. It becomes who they think they are. But there's another part, the authentic self, the one that exists even when no one's watching. And some people, these quiet, attention-averse people, they live more in that second space. They don't need the world to reflect them back to themselves. They already know who they are. Think of it like this. Imagine a lake. When the surface is still, you can see all the way to the bottom. You can see the rocks, the plants, the fish. Everything is clear. But when the surface is disturbed, when there are waves and ripples, all you see is movement, distortion, reflections of the sky, but never what's actually beneath. Most people live on the surface. They create waves to feel alive, to feel noticed, but these others, they live in the depths, where it's quiet, where it's clear. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. Really, I'm not. But I do think there's something we lose when we're always performing, when we're always on the surface. We lose the ability to just be. Let me share something personal. I don't post photos because I don't need validation or attention. If I take a photo of the food I just cooked, it stays in my phone as a memory. Or maybe I send it to my mom. Privacy is terribly underrated in the modern world, and I know that sounds judgmental. Maybe it is a little, but it's also just true for me. I used to think there was something wrong with me, that I was missing some social gene that everyone else had, that I should want to share more, that I should care about likes and comments and being seen. But the older I get, the more I realize I'm not broken. I'm just wired differently, and so are you maybe. There's this pressure now, this invisible weight that says if you're not sharing your life, you're not really living it. That if something isn't documented, it didn't matter. But that's a lie. The best moments of my life have no photos, no witnesses except the people who were there. And that makes them mine, fully mine. Not curated, not edited, not performed, just real. And I think people who don't need attention understand this instinctively. They understand that some things are too precious to share, that some experiences lose their magic when you try to capture them. That sometimes, the most meaningful thing you can do is simply be present, without an audience. Here's what I keep coming back to. In a world that's so loud, choosing silence is radical. Not because it's rebellious, but because it's honest. People who don't need attention aren't saints. They're not enlightened beings floating above the rest of us. They have insecurities too. They struggle too. But they've made a choice, consciously or not, to build their sense of worth from the inside out. Not from how many people see them, but from how clearly they see themselves. And I think that's what frustrates me sometimes about modern culture. We've turned attention into currency. We've made visibility the ultimate goal. And in doing so, we've forgotten that some of the most powerful people in history were the ones nobody saw coming. The writers who wrote in secret, the thinkers who thought in solitude, the artists who created for themselves first, and the world second. There's a freedom in not needing to be seen, a freedom to fail without an audience, to change without explanation, to exist without justification. And maybe that's what people are really seeking when they chase attention. Not the attention itself, but the feeling of mattering, of being real. But here's the paradox. The more you seek validation from others, the less real you become, because you start shaping yourself into what you think they want to see. The people who don't need attention, they've already solved that problem. They've decided that their existence doesn't need to be justified. It just is. And that's enough. I want to be careful here because this isn't about superiority. It's not about being better than anyone. But I do think there's something we need to acknowledge. The world is getting louder, and in that noise, it's becoming harder to hear yourself. People who naturally avoid attention, they're not avoiding people. They're not antisocial or broken or afraid. They're protecting something, their inner world, their sense of self, their peace. Imagine a house with all the windows open. Everyone can see in. Everyone has an opinion about your furniture, your walls, your life. Now imagine that same house with the curtains drawn. Not locked, not sealed, just private. That's what these people are doing. They're drawing the curtains, not because they have something to hide, but because not everything needs to be seen to be valuable. And I think, deep down, a lot of people envy that. They envy the ability to just exist without needing constant feedback, without needing to know what everyone thinks. But envy doesn't change anything. Understanding might. If you're someone who doesn't need attention, you're not weird. You're not cold. You're not missing out. You're just tuned to a different frequency, a quieter one. And that's okay. More than okay. I've been thinking about why this matters so much to me, why I keep circling back to this idea of people who exist quietly. And I think it's because I see what's happening to us, to all of us. We're losing the ability to be alone with ourselves. We're losing the capacity to sit with our thoughts without reaching for our phones. We're becoming strangers to our own minds. And the people who don't need attention, they're like reminders, living proof that you can opt out, that you don't have to play the game, that you can build a life that's rich and full and meaningful without broadcasting it to the world. I wonder sometimes what it would be like if we all just stopped for a week, if we all logged off and lived our lives without the pressure to document everything. Would we remember who we are? Would we rediscover parts of ourselves we've forgotten? Or would we feel lost, untethered, invisible? I think for a lot of people, it would feel like disappearing. And that's the scary part. We've become so dependent on external validation that we've forgotten how to validate ourselves. We've outsourced our sense of worth to algorithms and strangers, and we wonder why we feel empty. But the people who don't need attention, they never gave that power away. They kept it, they held onto it, and maybe that's why they seem so at peace. Because they're not waiting for the world to tell them they matter. They already know. There's something deeply lonely about needing to be seen all the time. It's a hunger that never gets satisfied. Because no amount of likes or comments or followers will ever fill the void of not knowing yourself, of not being comfortable in your own skin, of not being able to sit in silence without feeling like you're fading away. And I'm not saying this from some place of superiority. I'm saying it because I felt it. I felt that pull, that need to share something, anything, just to feel real, just to feel like I exist. But every time I've given into that pull, I felt worse afterward, more empty, more disconnected. Because I was looking for something outside myself that can only be found within. The people who don't need attention, they've figured out that the validation you give yourself is the only validation that lasts. Everything else is temporary, fleeting, gone as soon as the next post comes along. I think about the generations before us, the ones who lived entire lives without ever posting a photo online, without ever sharing their thoughts with thousands of strangers. Were their lives less meaningful? Were their experiences less real? Of course not. If anything, they were more present, more engaged, more alive. Because they weren't performing their lives, they were living them, and I think that's what we've lost. the ability to just live without an audience, to experience something beautiful and let it stay beautiful, to not feel compelled to capture it, to share it, to turn it into content. The people who don't need attention, they still have that. They can go to a concert and just listen to the music. They can travel to a beautiful place and just be there. They can have a meaningful conversation and not feel the need to tweet about it afterward. And maybe that makes them lonely sometimes. Maybe they look around and see everyone else connecting, sharing, building these online personas, and they wonder if they're missing something. But I don't think they are. I think they're experiencing something that's becoming increasingly rare. Authenticity, presence, peace. There's a quiet dignity in not needing to be seen, in knowing that your life has value even if no one's watching, in understanding that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And I think the world needs more of that. More people who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't need constant affirmation, who can sit with themselves and not feel compelled to fill every moment with noise, because the noise is overwhelming. It's drowning us. And the people who choose silence, they're not running away from connection. They're running toward themselves. And there's something beautiful about that, something brave. So here's what I think. Maybe you don't post because you already found what others are still searching for. Maybe you've realized that the deepest parts of life can't be captured in a photo or a caption. Maybe you understand that being known and being seen are not the same thing. That you can be loved without being famous, fulfilled without being followed, whole without being watched. The world will keep getting louder, people will keep performing, and that's fine, that's their path. But if your path is quieter, if you find peace in privacy, if you build your life in the spaces between the noise, then walk it fully. Don't apologize for it, don't question it, just live it, because silence isn't emptiness, it's peace. If this resonated with you, if you felt something shift while watching this, maybe leave a like or subscribe, but only if you want to. I'm not here to perform for you, and you're not here to perform for me. We're just here, together, for a moment, and maybe that's enough. Thank you for being here, for listening, for existing quietly in a loud world. I'll see you in the next one, or I won't, and either way, you'll be okay.